Strange Brew Podcast, Season 1, Episode 387, another Brewers series win. We had the return of Freddie Peralta to American Family Field on Monday. I felt bad for him. I felt bad. It's not going well for him in New York. And he looked so happy before the game, chopping it up with Murph and all of his former teammates. And then he looked so sad at the end of the game, talking to New York media about why he had another bad start. But whatever, the Brewers got a win. Could Freddie come back? I know we talked about that on the Monday podcast leading into that night. I don't know. I do sort of feel like they could fix him. Like, I have more faith in the Brewer pitching lab and the Brewer pitching coaches than maybe any other Packer offense or defense, Bucks offense or defense. When I look at all of the different teams that I love and follow, I think I have more faith in the Brewer pitching lab and the pitching staff and the coaches than I do of any other sector of Wisconsin sports. I think they could fix him, but that was an ugly outing for Freddie on Monday. The Brewers get a win, and a win on Wednesday, the Joey Ortiz game. Where were you for the Joey Ortiz game, the Joseph Ortiz game? He was incredible. He's been incredible since going to third base. So we'll talk all things Brewers Mets. We will go over a little preview of the Rockies series this weekend, but more importantly, we've got the Brewer alumni game coming up today. I don't know what this is going to look like. It's a piggyback off of the alumni home run derby last year, which was a rousing success. They've got 30 former Brewers. We're going to list off some of those names, but this should be an interesting evening of entertainment after an afternoon Friday start time at AmFam Field. We will talk about that. We will go over a little bit more drama with Giannis and some tweets that Dame Lillard had this week, kind of hinting that maybe things behind the scenes weren't all that great between him and Giannis, or Giannis and his teammates while he's in Milwaukee. We also got an interview from Giannis on a Greek podcast. I can play you a little bit of it. He mixes some Greek and some English. So he talks about coming back to the Bucks at the end of his career. I want to talk just a little bit Aaron Rodgers. He has reunited with his family. I don't know if there's so much more we can expand on there, but I feel good for him. I do. I feel good for Aaron Rodgers. I'm fully in on the Rodgers Steelers this year. And a little bit of Wisconsin Badger football, basketball, radio affiliate news I want to hit on toward the end. Let's go.
On the ground, a chance here. Durham to Hardy to first. Hit time! Yes! The Brewers win! Yes!
Here comes Melvin to the 25, to the 20, Gordon 15, 10, 5, touchdown! Wisconsin! Record-breaking run!
Morgan a smash up the middle, face into center. Here comes Gomez around third. A throw and the Brewers win!
Here's the snap. He looks, he throws, it's and there is your Super Bowl dagger.
Booker the drive, gets inside, leans in, knocked away and stolen by Holiday. Phoenix has to foul, and a pinnacle ball throws it down.
Swinging fly ball in the right center. Broxton is there, and they're the champions. They have done it.
It's been a 50-year journey. Wisconsin, we've got a room at the top of the world tonight. The Milwaukee Bucks are NBA champions.
Welcome in on your Friday morning. Like, rate, subscribe. However you consume the podcast, please do that. We keep on getting a few more ratings every episode. The numbers keep going up. Milwaukee, by the way, is now pretty far and away our number one market when you break up like the map they give you of where all the people are downloading podcasts from. So like, rate, and subscribe if you can. Pass the podcast along. Share it with a friend. Do something. Do something for me. Please. Please. Put some beg into it. I feel like that Kramer episode on Seinfeld. You got to really put some beg into it. Please. Like, rate, and subscribe. And then don't forget, we're going to do a mailbag. I'm not entirely sure if we're doing... That's it. That's just the sentence. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure if we're doing a Monday or Friday. We are doing a mailbag next week. I want to push it because I've got some questions about the Brewer trade deadline and what they might do at the trade deadline. We're going to talk a little bit about that on this podcast, too, because there have been some leaked rumors from Adam McCalvey, who is kind of like state Brewer media. I mean, he works for the team. He works for the Brewers website. And he has hinted that they are talking to some big dogs out there about maybe a Skubal, maybe a Mason Miller or a Josh Hader or big names like that. Big game hunting for Matt Arnold and the boys. But we'll talk a little bit about that today. But I've got some stuff on the trade deadline. So I think I want the mailbag episode to be as close up against the trade deadline as we can. So that would be next Friday. The deadline's a little later this year. It's on Monday, August 3rd. For most of my life, I feel like it's always been July 31st. But the deadline is in the evening on Monday, August 3rd, probably to make it some kind of a primetime event on MLB Network, which is fine. But I'm thinking then Friday is the most likely day. The risk I run of doing it on Friday is what if they make an early trade? Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I think the only time I can remember that happening was with CeCe, really, where they picked him up 3 weeks before the deadline. I would run the risk of podcast on Monday, normal podcast, and then some major trade happening, and that would wipe out like 3 questions for the mailbag episode if that were to happen before Friday. But I think we might risk it and do a Friday podcast. Next week, we'll do a mailbag podcast. But if you want to have any questions on the deadline, any gambling tips, any Packer training camp, we're not that far away. Hold on, I played this on the air this morning. Oh, I got to play you. My niece recorded a liner for us for the B93 morning, so I got to play that too. But we have, where's my bang on the drum? I just played a little bit of this just to whet the appetite a little bit. This is like, when you play this, you can just picture Packer fans in faded Brett Favre jerseys with a beer can helmet on, loaded with a couple of Coors Lights or Miller Lights, just kind of coming out of hibernation, just slowly lurking about and getting set to tailgate and get set for the Packer season. But we're not that far away. When we record a podcast on Monday, the rookies will be reporting, and the first training camp practice...
Gosh, I like the Packers. I'd do anything for the Packers.
...is on Wednesday next week. That's hard to believe. But I think we'll do the mailbag episode then on Friday. We can talk a little bit on Monday about training camp battles if you want. I can maybe harvest some information online as we head into the Monday podcast. But any questions, anything for the mailbag episode, strangebrewpod@AOL.com. strangebrewpod@AOL.com. Yeah, I got to play this quick. We had yesterday, so we have a niece and nephew. We have our 5-year-old niece, Lily, and our 2-year-old nephew, Oscar. And my mother-in-law typically watches those kids on Thursdays, but she is on vacation. I think she's in Colonial Williamsburg, I think. But she was gone on Thursday. Now, my wife is a 4-on, 1-off. She works 4 10s and has off on 1 day a week, and Thursday is her day off. And she typically helps her mom out to watch the kids in the afternoon on Thursdays. But with her mom gone, my wife, Lindsay, said, okay, I'll watch the kids all day on Thursday. And I said, I am willing to help. I'm at work, but if you want to bring them to work, it would also give me an excuse to leave work and do some other stuff while I'm technically supposed to be on the clock. So I have no problem helping out. I said, bring him to the station. They might find it fun. Oscar loves pushing buttons. Anytime he's at our house, he likes to push all of the buttons, flip the light switches on and off, which is not agitating, but it does make me laugh because there's one light switch he likes to flip on and off every time he comes to the house, and that's actually the light switch that controls the light and the TV in the living room. So when he flips it off, like I'll be in the middle of watching a game, and then all of a sudden everything will just shut down. I said, come on, Oscar, could you please flip that back on? So he loves that. He loves to push buttons, and that's basically all I do all day. I mean, we've got the soundboard here. You turn the mic on, you turn the mic off. It's got a light on it, which he loves to, where if you push a button, a light changes color. It goes from white to red when the mic is on. So I thought they'd have kind of a good time. We could probably kill 25 or 30 minutes here, and they can record their voices. We can play it back for them. We can have them do a podcast segments that I can use so I can ease the burden here today. You got any takes on the Packer over-under, Lily? So we had her record a liner. It didn't take all that much. She warmed up quickly. She was a little nervous when she came into the studio beforehand, but she warmed up fast. And I think we just spliced this together. It only took a couple of cookies to bribe her to do this.
Hello, I'm Lily. Listen to John. Listen to B93.
B93.
Hear us cheer in the background.
Hello, I'm Lily. Listen to John. Listen to B93.
Pretty good. Pretty good. So she made her radio debut. We played that earlier this morning. Then we went to Bookworm Gardens, which is a gem in Sheboygan County. I had not been there probably in, I don't even know, 15 or 20 years. I think we had to do a remote there, or we had the privilege to do a remote there. I shouldn't have phrased it like that. We had to do a remote there. We had the privilege of doing a remote there many years ago for some event they had going on. And it is so cool. It's obviously gardens, a lot of flowers, a lot of vegetable gardens, a lot of learning, a lot of farm activity out there, too. And they've got some live chickens that we can't sacrifice for the Brewers, but they've got some live chickens and roosters. And it's just fun. They have a tip of the cap to a lot of children's novels. Like they've got a little short school bus out there, the Magic School Bus. Remember that? So we went there, and my nephew Oscar loves all things trucks, so he could not wait to sit at the driver's seat in the school bus, and then they had a blue truck he could drive, and he dropped me off at the airport. He said, get out of the car. Get out of here, Uncle John. Get out of the car. Try to play along here. So he got to do all of that fun stuff, and we got to walk around there for a couple of hours. Then we took them to get some ice cream, which there are a ton of great ice cream spots. We took them to a spot called Blast Soft Serve, which is right on Indiana Avenue if you're in Sheboygan, and it's right on the lake. And they just opened a few years ago. And Chester's, which is an iconic restaurant, like a Burger Culver's joint local in Plymouth, they have a food truck that they have planted right next to Blast Soft Serve. It is a really fun area. They've got a lot of open space now down there with the Armory destroyed. And we took them there to get some ice cream to kind of wrap up the day, and then Oscar has his nap time around noon 30 or 1 o'clock or whatever, so we figured that would be a good 3 or 4 hours. So we went to Blast Soft Serve, and I had a rookie error. Hand up, it's on me. I'll give you the Matt LaFleur. I had a rookie error when we were ordering ice cream, soft serve for them. I was getting set to order. I said, I'll get a twist cone. Lindsay, my wife, had a twist cone. Lily, what do you want? I'll have a twist in a dish. And then Oscar just said to me, looked me dead in the eyes. He's about to be 3. He is 2 months away from being 3, 2-ish months. And he looked me in the eyes and said he wanted chocolate ice cream in a cone. I want a chocolate cone. I want a chocolate cone, John. Kangaroo song. I said, okay. I didn't even think twice about it. He said it so confidently. Chocolate cone. I felt like the way he said it made me feel like he's had a cone before. I don't know if he's ever had a cone before. I don't know. But I ordered all those. I got the cones, and I got Lily her dish of ice cream, and we gave Oscar the chocolate ice cream cone. And within, I would say, 4.7 seconds, I realized, oh, this was like a terrible thing. This was a big mistake. big mistake. Huge. And watching him try to attack this cone while it's dripping all over him, I tried to give him a little tutorial, like, all right, you got to kind of work the sides here a little bit, buddy. Because he kept on going like you would when you're not even 3 years old. He kept on mushing the top of it into his face. I said, you gotta work the angles here. You gotta work the sides or it's going to drip all over you. And yeah, it became apparent within 2 or 3 minutes he was going to be wearing that thing. So we tried to keep up with paper towels, and it was funny to watch him attack it. But eventually, I did the walk of shame back to the window and said, can I have a dish, please? Can you please give me an empty dish because this ice cream is everywhere. Now, the nice thing about Blast is, again, the open space. They've got these paper towel racks everywhere, like you can't miss them. And then they have a couple of hoses. So we just hosed him down. We deloused him. But they have a couple of like water spigots that you can just turn on and wash your hands. And they've got the paper towel right there. So it was easy. It was an easy cleanup. But I should have taken a picture. The paper towel he had on his lap that we set down, like 3 or 4 of them, covered. I mean, it was more ice cream than lap. But yeah, it was obvious within 5 or 6 seconds. I thought, oh, this was not smart, John. Why would you give a 2-year-old an ice cream cone? Just give him ice cream in a dish. And that went much better once we got the dish. But yeah, she recorded me. I'll use this all the time. I'll use this forever.
I'm Lily. Listen to John. Listen to B93.
B93.
So we had a nice day. Really good weather day yesterday and taking care of the kiddos for a day. That was fun. Fun afternoon. All right, let's get organized here and get the Brewer content going. God, I'll tell you, I texted my buddies. I don't know if anybody else's algorithm on Twitter is doing this. I got stuck in an Emerald Lagasse, like bam, bam, and an Emerald algorithm yesterday. Randomly, somebody tweeted out, and the guy, it's not even a big account. The guy that started this on Twitter has like 600 followers. That's it. So normally you click on these things and it's a blue check mark and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of followers, and that's how it goes viral. This was super organic. Some guy just tweeted out that he stumbled across an old clip of Emerald's Food Network show. I'm assuming Food Network, right? And he said, I'm really sad, or the tweet said something to the effect of, I'm so sad I never got to be a part of the studio audience. Now, I am aware of Emerald, like we all are aware of Emerald, and bam, bam. I mean, he was such an icon of the late 90s, early 2000s, and probably some of the first TV episodes of anything on Food Network. And I have to say, though, until yesterday, I've never watched an Emerald show. I don't think I've ever seen the Emerald show. I know it existed, and I don't think it exists anymore, but I had never seen it. So I watched it because of the tweet, and then I got stuck in this loop where my entire timeline yesterday, I'm not joking, you scroll through, my entire timeline was Emerald, 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 because once you watch a few of them, the algorithm gets cranked up and says, oh, this guy loves Emerald. These episodes, this crowd at Emerald Live tapings is so electric. Like, he's got all these dudes in the audience, and they're drinking beers. Like, he's like the Stone Cold Steve Austin of cooking shows. It literally felt like a WWE Monday Night Raw episode. He's got guys in the audience in construction hats. They're catcalling. And whenever he does something with food, they just catcall.
What we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of cream to this. And we're going to start letting that...
These guys are drinking beers. He gives them like a nod, a knowing glance.
All right.
Or Ric Flair wooing just guys in their polos or their slugging
we're going to add
IPAs.
a little bit of cream to this. And we're going to start letting that...
I may have to go back and watch some of these.
And it comes out too thick. I want it thinner. Relax. Add water, just the seasoning. You could add Worcestershire sauce.
Yeah.
You could add red wine.
Yeah. I mean, these guys are just on the edge of their seats.
But just relax. It's going to be all right. All right, after 25 minutes, this is what you do.
He's making beef Wellington.
Go to the oven. Look at these now. See these?
Beautiful.
Take some cheddar cheese.
Yeah. Oh.
Take some cheddar cheese like this, and then we'll put them right back in the oven. Finish them up for the last 5 minutes. Are you with me so far? After they're melted, put them right on the old plate like that with a little gravy, and there you have it for all my manly man buddies.
He has the audience eating out of the palm of his hand.
A little potato cake. Watch this. You take some fresh potato like this. You want the starch. You know, they're always saying, hey, no, we don't want the starch. You want the starch.
Hell yeah, we do.
That's right. Well, let's take a vote. Do we want the starch? All right.
Guys, they're so passionate. It's so funny. I've never seen an audience like that reacting on a cooking show. And I sort of agree with the original poster saying, God, I wish I could go back and be in an audience in 1999 in Emerald's kitchen. But he literally has them captivated. There was one, I didn't save it, but there was one where he was talking about beer. And he said, when I want to kick it up a notch, I get a little lemon slice, and I get a couple of lime slices, some fresh lemon, some fresh lime. He puts them in the bottom of his pint glass. He gets out a spoon and muddles it. There were gasps. They were gasping in the crowd as he was muddling lemon and lime at the bottom of his beer glass. And then he poured his beer on top of it, and there you go. They go, oh, my God. It was like they had to cut to the crowd where it looked like half of the crowd had never even considered the option of putting a lemon or a lime in their beer before. But again, this is the late 90s, mid to late 90s. So I don't know that that was a thing. It's a thing now where you combo up all kinds of fruits and beers together if you want to. But they had guys looking like they had just discovered fire for the first time. Like it was the first time they heard the Beatles, and they didn't know how to wrap their mind around it. So I have been stuck in a time loop of Emerald Lagasse videos, and I actually don't want to leave. You know, sometimes you get in those, and it's the same content over and over and over again. I've watched every single clip. I lost, like, in between the Magic School Bus and recording liners and watching Oscar spill ice cream on himself, I watched, like, 60 Emerald videos yesterday. But they are electric. I know he's a thing, and forever will be a thing in the cooking world. I didn't realize that those audiences were just so jacked up every time he got out there. I'm sad. I like that original poster. I'm sad I missed it. All right, let's talk about the Brew Crew. Mets in town Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Second game, or the second series of the 9-game homestand to open the second half of the schedule. So on Monday, we got the Freddie Peralta, Jacob Mizorowski matchup. So the Miz pitched for the first time in 13 days. And I am very curious, and maybe we've talked about this, maybe we haven't. I know we talked about it on the HBL Morning Show. But I am very curious to see how they handle him for the remainder of the regular season, as long as they have a comfortable division lead, which right now is 7 games, and as long as they are sitting in that 1 or 2 spot. And I don't know that they care if they're 1 or 2. Obviously, you'd like to be 1 and have home field go through AmFam Field. They had that last year, didn't matter, but I think given preference, I know sometimes those things happen like last year where you have the number 1 seed and all roads go through AmFam Field. And we've seen the Packers do that a million times where they're the number 1 seed and every road goes through Lambeau Field. and then it never ends up mattering. The Bucks in 2023, all roads to the finals go through I almost said the Bradley Center, Jesus, through Fiserv Forum, and they lose in the first round. Still, even though it feels like home field or home court is not what it used to be, like when I was a kid and somebody had home field for the playoffs, you felt like, oh, there's no chance we can beat them there. I think that has changed a lot over the years, but if you had your preference, right, you would prefer to be the 1 seed and you'd prefer to have home field throughout the playoffs. But as long as they are sitting in that 1 or 2 spot where you avoid the wild card best of 3, and as long as you have a comfortable division lead, I do wonder how they're going to handle Miz. Now, Miz looked a little up and down on Monday, but you'd expect that, right? After 13 days off, almost 2 weeks off, he only pitched 4 innings. That was a designed short start because, as he said in the postgame, it's almost like spring training again, where they're building him back up and he has to get his legs back under him. And he's been doing his bullpen sessions and throwing on the side like we discussed heading into the All-Star break. But, there's a difference between that and actually doing or actually pitching in a game, in a major league game with consequences. It was a designed short start, 65 pitches, 4 innings, gave up 1 run unearned. So his ERA does go down to, what is it at now? Still the major league leader, 1.57. He had 6 strikeouts. But he ran out of gas quickly. If you watch the first inning, he was gassing guys up at 102, 103. He carved up Juan Soto in the first inning like I've never seen before, like an emerald, like on a rotisserie chicken on emerald. But he carved him up on 4 pitches, 102, 103, dropped a curveball on him at 93 miles an hour, and Soto never had a chance. So he really did come out firing in the first inning, and you kind of thought, okay, yeah, after that rest, he looks good. That dropped off quickly. By the third inning, it looked like his mechanics were kind of getting out of sorts, and he was flying open a little bit, missing very wide outside, just a bit outside. Play that here in a second, too, with the Uke documentary. We'll talk about that in a minute. But you could just tell very quickly on Monday, after the 13 days off, he was super sharp in the first inning, kind of sharp in the second inning, and then dulled as we got to the third and fourth inning. And you did kind of feel like after that fourth inning, that might be all he has in the tank, and they do pull him after that fourth inning. But how are they going to utilize him? How many times will he get an extra day off? Will they skip a turn in the rotation? Because as we've gone over a lot, what is he at innings-wise with those 4 innings on Monday? The most he's ever pitched at any level of Major League Baseball is 144 innings in a year. So after Monday, he's already at 115. Now you figure, let's do a little rough math here. Can I get the calculator app up? You figure, unless they really skip around and give him a lot of additional time, which I don't know that I hate, you just want to make sure he's pitching every 5 days for 3 starts heading into the playoffs. You don't want to mess around too much in early to mid to late September where you skip a start or you give him some extra time. I think if you're going to give him extra time, it's going to be in the next month, in August. You're going to bop around a little bit there. You don't want to have that. You want him taking the ball every 5 days like he normally would for at least 3 starts heading into October, heading into the playoffs. So he's got how many starts on the year? 19. Let's say he makes 30 starts, and he averages, we'll say conservatively, he averages 5 innings a start. So that's 11 times 5 is 55 plus 115. That puts him at 170. And again, the longest he's ever gone, or the highest workload he's ever had is 144 innings. So that's already 170. And then you're hoping NLDS Game 1, maybe NLDS Game 5, NLCS Game 1, at least another NLCS start. What the hell? Let's say a couple of World Series starts. We're starting to look at 200-plus, 210-ish innings if everything kind of goes the way you want it to. So I am fascinated to see how often they maybe do what they did on heading into this start on Monday, and then within the context of Monday where they yanked him after 65 pitches and only 4 innings. But he was really solid early and then kind of fell off as the start went on. The one that's most interesting to me now will be the next time out. He is going to go on his regular rest on 5 days on Sunday. So after having that one start, after having 2 weeks off and the All-Star break in there, now how will he look? Will he look more like himself through 5 or 6 innings on Sunday against a bad Rockies team? I guess we'll find out. Now, the flip side of Monday was Freddie Peralta. As I put in the blog on Tuesday, and we'll play the clip of the Andrew Vaughn home run here in a second, I felt bad for him. I felt bad. I actually texted one of my buddies, one of my close friends from college, huge Brewer fan, And the Brewers scored 2 runs on Freddie in the first inning, and he had a huge pitch count. Then Cooper Pratt hit his first career home run in the second inning, 3-0. 3-1 game in the third inning. Vaughn hits a 2-run bomb, and then Freddie came out for the sixth inning, didn't make it out of that inning. Then Ortiz hits a home run, 3-run shot. 2 more of those runs were on Freddie's line. And he got a standing ovation from the AmFam Field crowd as he made his way off the mound in the sixth inning. But you could just tell. I mean, he wanted to have a better performance back home, back on the mound that he called his home for 8 or 9 years. And he just got knocked around, and the mechanics didn't look good. Speaking of flying open, he is flying open with his release point. That does not look consistent right now at all. And he just, in the postgame, he was talking to the New York media, and he just looked so sad. Now, Freddie, we know, if you've watched any pre- or post-game with Freddie, he is an emotional guy. And if things go well, he's really happy. And if things go poorly, he feels like he let the team down. He feels like he let himself down. He feels like he let the fans down. There has been more than one instance of Freddie Peralta during his time in Milwaukee where he has had a bad start in a big moment, and it looks like he's on the verge of tears. So I think coming back to a place he loves, to a fan base that loves him, and he's having a bad year, his first year away from Milwaukee, his first year in New York, and all the pressure that inherently comes with, even though it's the Mets and not the Yankees, the pressure that comes with performing in New York. Like, they're not going to be as nice to him as Milwaukee fans are. They don't have a history with him the way that we do, and all they see is a guy they gave up 2 guys for, and he's been trashed this year. Coming out of Monday, he's a 5-9 record and a 5 ERA. And I texted my buddy, I said, am I a wuss, we'll say? Am I a wussy for thinking that I'm sad for Freddie Peralta? And he just texted me back one word, yes, period. I said, I'm sorry. I'm an empath. I'm sorry. sorry I care. But I felt bad for Freddie. Now, we had the conversation on Monday. The Brewers are in the market for a starting pitcher. We're going to talk more about that in a second. But they are in the market for a starting pitcher. And we talked on Monday about, Freddie probably is not going to sign his next contract in New York. And I guess I don't know what that contract looks like. I know we said on Monday, I still feel like even if he's middle of the road the rest of the year and he ends this year with some 8-12 record and an ERA in the mid to upper 4s, given his history and production and the 200 strikeout years and the 17-game winner was last year and the top 5 Cy Young finish was just last year, I still think he's going to get a $75, $80, $85 million deal over 4 to 5 years. But that's not going to come from the Mets because as we went over on Monday, they're just not competing the way they thought they would. And I don't even know if they were going to do that anyway. Even if they won 100 games and won the NL East and made a run to the World Series, and Freddie was a big part of that, I guess I don't know that he was going to be a guy they were going to commit to long-term either way. But now that they are a sinking ship and are 17 games under 500 or whatever it is, they're going to look to sell pieces. They're not going to sell Juan Soto or the blue chip guys that they have for 7-8 years are on long-term contracts. They're not going to trade those guys. But a guy like Freddie, a veteran who's in the final year of his deal, they're probably going to try to get something from him. As we went over on Monday, I don't know what that would even cost right now with a 5-9 record and a 5 ERA. I mean, I feel like you could just pay off the rest of his contract and send some scratch-off ticket, high A player that you don't think is going to turn into anything. And I think you could probably get Freddie back. As I said in the teaser, I have more faith in the Brewer pitching lab, whatever happens there. You know what they could do? You know what they might be able to do for Freddie? Because this mysterious pitching lab, whatever is happening behind closed doors there, they will not let anybody in. I'm not even joking. We had press passes for spring training for a couple of years. They will not let anybody breach those walls of the pitching lab to let people know what's going on. And we know, now there's not a 100% hit rate, but it's a pretty damn good hit rate where they bring in guys like Quinn Priester last year and a little bit maybe Brandon Sproat this year. He's still got to get it going more consistently, but they have these guys that come to Milwaukee with 5-6 career ERAs, and they go in the pitching lab and they hook up with Chris Hook and the whole coaching staff there, and they come out like brand new people. So what is happening there? That may be a way. Could they get Freddie Peralta? If you just called the Mets and you said, look, instead of giving you money for his contract, instead of giving you a high A rookie ball prospect, we will give you, it's going to be like, what was the supermarket show? The supermarket shopping spree. What the hell was the name of it? Where they had a limited amount of time supermarket game show. Supermarket sweep. We're going to open the door to the pitching lab. We're gonna let you shed some light on the mystery of the pitching lab. We are going to give you 160 seconds in the pitching lab, and you can copy as much information as you want. And once that time is up, you're out. But then we'll take Freddie in return for that. The Brewers may be able to swing some trades like that because the pitching lab has been so successful. I do have faith that, let's say the Brewers did trade for Freddie and he came back. I think within 2 weeks, Chris Hook has him worked out. They take him to the pitching lab. They get his mechanics straight. They get the velocity back where it was supposed to be because he was only throwing 93, I think, 92, 93, 94. And we're not talking about a Woodruff situation here. Like, he hasn't had major surgery. He's still only 29 years old or 28 years old. But I firmly believe that he would come to Milwaukee and they'd find some way in 13 starts in Milwaukee, he'd go 7-1 with a 3.1 ERA or an average strikeouts of 9 or 10 per 9 innings. They would find a way to get him going again. But I felt bad. I really did feel bad. And he just looked so sad. Now, one other clip I want to play you from Monday. I thought a really neat moment. So they've got a Hank Aaron mural. We've got so many murals in Milwaukee. We've got the Giannis mural. You've got the Uke mural now. And there's a Hank Aaron mural. So they were remembering on Monday. It was 50 years to the day of Hank Aaron's 755th and final Major League home run. That makes him still the home run king. It's Barry Bonds' birthday today, by the way. But he is still the true home run king. But that was the anniversary, the 50-year anniversary of his last home run, which I also did not know during the broadcast. I don't know what lot it's in. It's got to be in one of the lots where County Stadium was destroyed. There is an actual brick plate or a remembrance of that in the parking lot on the ground where that ball landed. I guess I've never parked in that area or never parked in that lot. I did not know they commemorated it like that, but there is kind of a plaque on the ground of where that ball landed. So they had his widow, his wife, Billy Aaron, was in town, and she is in charge of the Hank Aaron Foundation, which gives back to the community a lot of money and all the great stuff, philanthropic work they've done over the years. And they had Billy Aaron in the booth in the third inning. And she was a joy. It was just a lot of fun to hear her talk. And during the course of having her on the air, BA was back with Rock on the air on Monday. Andrew Vaughn hits a home run, and her joy in being in the booth when somebody hit a home run just added to it.
Until as Vaughn sends one left center, and it's gone! Oh my goodness! He's gone Hank Aaron on us. Andrew Vaughn, just his third of the year. Bernie hits the slide. It's a two-run home run.
That's great.
That's such a cool moment. I love when she just reacts to it in real time.
Sends one left center. And it's gone! Oh my goodness! He's gone Hank Aaron on us. Andrew Vaughn, just his third of the year. Bernie hits the slide. It's a two-run home run.
That's great.
But they just blow them out on Monday, 8-1, and then eventually the Mets got two. Who did they get two off of? Was it Yoho? Yoho got the win. Oh, we had Lance McCullers Jr. make his debut on Monday. He had two scoreless innings, 6 up, 6 down. I wonder if they just tried to bite off a little bit too much and get a little too much out of him. They put him back out there for the 8th inning, ends up giving up a couple runs, but he looked pretty good too. So he starts in a relief role for the Brewers on Monday, but you get the 8-3 win on Monday to win 4 in a row to begin the second half. Now, Tuesday's game, Brandon Sprout faced his former team. He came to the Brewers in the Freddie Peralta deal. He was fine, but again, pitch count was really high, 99 pitches, and he didn't even make it through the 5th inning. And he ends up going 4 2/3, giving up 2 runs. I mean, that's not terrible. 4 strikeouts, 4 walks. That continues to be the Achilles heel for Brandon Sprout, is the walks and the pitch count, and he just can't quite finish guys off, which is a lot like, you know who that's a lot like. But it is kind of a lot. It's a lot of Burns-esque 2019 where Corbin Burns would get in front of a lot of guys 0-2, 1-2 counts in 2019 and couldn't finish guys off, and that's what would end up biting him. So the similarities continue. But he just can't. He gets ahead of a ton of guys in 0-2, 1-2 counts, and then all of a sudden he's in a 3-2 count, and he can't finish guys off. So that is the next step in Brandon Sprout's progression. At 4 2/3, 2 runs is not the end of the world. Brewer offense could not get anything going on Tuesday. They were shut down by Mets rookie lefty Zach Thornton. He was really good. 6 shutout innings, had a couple of strikeouts. Brewers had their best chance in the 6th inning. This was this stupid play where Cooper Pratt and Joey Ortiz, really the only mistake Joey Ortiz made just about the entire series. They had in the 6th inning, were they down 3-0 then? Yeah, they were down 3-0 in the 6th inning. First 2 guys get on. First and second, nobody out. And then Andrew Vaughn struck out, so first and second, 1 out. And then in the course of the next at-bat, there was a wild pitch. Pratt's at second base, Ortiz is at first base, and the ball got away from the catcher, and Ortiz just takes off. I mean, he assumes that they are going to be moving on this because the ball did get pretty far away from their catcher. And he takes off. Well, 3/4 of the way down to second base, he looks up and realizes, oh, Cooper Pratt's still standing there. I can't be there. And then he tries to hustle back to first. Then Cooper Pratt, seeing Ortiz come at him late, then he takes off for third. and he probably just should have stayed at second. I mean, let Ortiz get thrown out at first base. There's going to be a second out in the inning at any rate once you get to that point. But then, instead of having 2 outs and a runner on first, you would have had 2 outs and a runner on second, and a single still scores a run. So nobody was thinking. Joey Ortiz has to be looking before he takes off. Cooper Pratt has to be aware of what's coming at him. And then in that moment, instead of panicking and going to third base, he should just throw anchor down at second base and let Ortiz get thrown out at first base on his way back. But they ran themselves out of an inning. The next guy lined out, and that was the end of it. And that was really their only threat on Tuesday. So they dropped their first game of the second half, a 4-0 loss on Tuesday. Then on Wednesday, we got the Joey Ortiz game. What a performance. So they got down 1-0. Logan Henderson on the hill, he was rock solid. 5 innings, 2 runs, 9 strikeouts, no walks. He was tremendous. Down 1-0 in the second inning, Joey Ortiz, 2 RBI triple. Now, I forget who the right fielder was for the Mets. He took a ridiculous path to that ball. It should have been an out, but it wasn't. It's a triple. It's a 2 RBI triple. And Yelly had a nice game on Wednesday. He has been scuffling terribly. We've got a question on that for the mailbag episode next week. But he had a 2-hit game on Wednesday, his first good game in a long time. Opposite field RBI single scored Ortiz, and then in a 3-2 game in the 6th inning, Ortiz got back on. Yelly RBI triple made it 4-2, and then they had to hang on in the 9th inning. McGill had not given up a run. Trevor McGill had not given up a run since June 5th. It is July 20. Well, I guess it was July 22nd. It's July 24th today. It was July 22nd on Wednesday. That's how good he's been. He gave up a run to make it 4-3, and then there was a runner on with 2 down. And the next guy up, sharply hit ground ball to Joey Ortiz. Diving stab for the final out of the game, and he throws him out at first base. It was a poetic ending. He has a 3-for-3 day. He's on base all 4 times. He was a home run short of the cycle. Single, double, triple. And then in his last at bat, the pitcher walked him, and the American Family Field crowd was booing the pitcher. I never thought I'd see a moment in baseball. This is why they tell you, when you watch baseball every day, even though it's a sport that's been around for 150 years, this is why they tell you, you never know what you're going to see in a given game. Because never in my wildest dreams would I have thought the American Family Field crowd would be booing a pitcher for walking Joey Ortiz because Joey Ortiz was a home run short of the cycle. Like, that sentence to me seems improbable. But that's what happened. He was on base all 4 times. He scored 2 runs. He knocked in 2 runs. He stole a base, his 8th steal of the year. And he had that diving play to end it at third base for the final out of the game. And the Brewers take the win and the series on Wednesday, 4-3. Now, they did have another instance on Wednesday where they had the bases loaded, nobody out in the bottom of the 5th inning and could not score. And when you go back to the 2nd inning where Ortiz had that 2 RBI triple, they started that inning with runners at the corners, nobody out, and it's only because of Ortiz's hit that they scored there. So there are some underlying things right now, not to say it can't change. Hitting with runners in scoring position, it feels like it's one of those stats in baseball where you're really good for a little bit and you're really bad for a little bit, and it kind of averages out. For the first couple of months of the year, the Brewers were one of the best teams, I think a top 2 or 3 team in baseball with something like a 275 or 280 average with runners in scoring position. It has not been pretty in the last month. So if you were to look at this team sitting at 64-38 and a half game off the pace of the best record in baseball and a 7-game division lead and all the great things they've done and all the history they're making, the fastest Brewer team in franchise history to reach this mark and that mark, if there was something I would say that is unsettling to me right now, it is the offense, because we know the number one thing that undermines this team in October is when they face elite playoff pitching. You've got to be able to cash in with runners in scoring position. Now, again, it's July. Maybe they get hot again in August or September, and they are hot heading into the playoffs, and we're not as worried about it. But it has been an issue now for about a month, and they've been able to win games despite not being great in that stat. But if I were to say that there's one thing, like Winnie the Pooh, where I get a rumble in my tumble, if there's one thing that makes me a little uneasy about this team, even though they've been fabulous all year, it is hitting with runners in scoring position, because they have not been great at that for the better part of a month now. But they are able to hang on for a 4-3 win with the Joey Ortiz game. So Ortiz coming out of Wednesday, all of a sudden he's hitting 240 since he got moved to third base. Now I'm going to toot my own horn here. Where's Arn Anderson?
I don't want to toot my own horn, but toot.
Remember,
I don't want to toot my own horn, but toot. toot.
Remember when we talked about when Cooper Pratt got called up and Ortiz was going to have to shift to third base? And at that time, we thought he'd be a timeshare with David Hamilton. Hamilton's been on the IL. He's getting set to come back. I don't know how they're going to mix and match that right now because you've got to play the hot hand, right? You've got to play Ortiz more often than not because of how good he's been since he's been kind of a full-time player at third base. But remember we said, I wondered if when they moved him to third and they finally call up Pratt and we finally had the thing happen. It's like when you're anticipating something in life, like you're anticipating a big work meeting or a performance review. I think those happen. They also don't happen in radio, but I'm giving you things that I think happen in the real world but don't really happen here. But you're anticipating something and you're not excited for it. You're nervous about it. It's upsetting you in some way. And then when the thing happens, even whether it's good or bad, just the fact that it's over is a pressure release. Now, when they signed Cooper Pratt to that deal before the year began, Joey Ortiz knew his time was short at shortstop. Now, it would have been interesting if he were hitting at the beginning of the year the way he is hitting now. Do we think that Cooper Pratt is still at AAA Nashville? Maybe. But when you sign a guy like that, a 21-year-old shortstop, to an 8-year, $51 million deal, and it can ultimately be a 10-year deal, yeah, he's under control for a long time, but now you're paying him. I mean, you don't want him to be at AAA Nashville too long. So Ortiz had such a slow start, but he knew once Cooper Pratt signed that contract, at some point, Cooper Pratt was going to get called up. So Ortiz is trying to perform because he's got this young, hot prospect breathing down his neck. And he's pressing, and it's not happening, and then they call him up. Okay, the disastrous thing has happened. They called up the guy who plays my position. He's going to take my spot. But I did wonder, and we talked about it on the podcast, if that was going to act as some kind of pressure valve release for Joey Ortiz, where he could just say, okay, it happened. I knew it was going to happen. Now I moved to third. I was really good there 2 years ago, actually hit for some average and some power and was tremendous defensively at third. So I go back there, and now I just see what I can do with whatever role they give me. And he has been fantastic since that happened. He is hitting .334 since he got moved to third base. His OPS is damn near 900. And he is hitting for power with 4 home runs. Now, as I talked about on the HBL morning show, I think the TAQ morning show, I forget. We were talking about this on Thursday morning after the Joey O game on Wednesday. And I said, with the trade deadline less than 2 weeks away, does Joey Ortiz's performance right now at third base change your opinion about what you want this team to do at the deadline? Because I have long been on the track of you'd love to get a reliever or two. You'd love to get a starting pitcher. And then what have I always said? I would love if they can find a veteran third baseman, because that's the only spot that you can put a new person. I don't know. You're not going to supplant Terang at second base. The Bowers, even though Bowers has been ice cold, but I think he'll get it figured out. The Bowers-Vaughn timeshare at first base kind of seems like it's set. Terang is set at second. Contreras is set at catcher. Pratt is set at shortstop. And then the outfield, Frelick's on the IL now, but you've got Lara. You've got Churio. You've got Bowers that can play a little bit out there. You've got Yelly that can play a little bit out there. Who am I missing? Oh, Garrett Mitchell, who could win Player of the Month in July. So when you look at the everyday lineup and you say, okay, you want to add a power bat, you want to add a slugger who can hit 30 home runs and knock in 100 runs, where do you put him? Third base is the only logical conclusion. That's the only place where you could put somebody full-time. So does this change my opinion? Does the Ortiz performance change my stance that one thing I would like to see this team get is a power-hitting veteran third baseman with some playoff experience? He can hit 240, 250. He can knock 30 home runs and 100 runs. He's that kind of run producer. Does the Ortiz recency bias change that for me? Right now, it does not. I would still prefer to see somebody with some playoff experience that can hit for some power more consistently. I am overjoyed for Joey Ortiz, who really did look like he was pressing. I am so happy for him, and Pat Murphy talked about that in postgame on Wednesday, that he's gotten things turned around, that he is hitting now, and he's playing loose, and he has given them a big jolt, because when you look around, like I just said, Garrett Mitchell's been great in the month of July. Ortiz has been great, but Bowers has been ice cold. He's hitting sub 200 in the month. Contreras has been ice cold, even with the walk-off home run, sub 200 in the month of July. Churio's hitting 210 in the month of July. Yelich is hitting 195 in the month of July, even with the good game on Wednesday. So they have needed guys like Mitchell and Ortiz to get hot, because some of the bats that have carried this team for the first couple of months have been frigid in the month of July, pre and post All-Star break. So I am so happy for him that it kind of looks like he's finding a home there and is getting consistent playing time. But on July 24th, now look, if he has 7 more hits this weekend and he's hitting 300 next week and we're knocking on the door of the trade deadline, he pops a couple more home runs, I don't know, maybe I change my opinion. But right now, on July 24th, as we are recording this podcast, if you said to me, do you want to ride into October with Joey Ortiz as your third baseman, or do you want to ride into October with Matt Chapman or Nolan Arenado or somebody like that, if you can get somebody like that doesn't cost you a ton, I think I still take the veteran third baseman with power over Ortiz in October, because he could be great for the rest of the regular season, but I do worry about Joey Ortiz in a series against the Phillies, against their pitching, in a series against the Dodgers with their pitching. Can he do it on that level? I know there's some of the chicken or the egg conversation here where how are you going to know, John, unless he gets a chance then, but I would prefer to have some options there once you hopefully get to that level of October. But Ortiz has been phenomenal since they moved him to third base. Phenomenal. So the Brewers are 64-38 coming out of Wednesday, and they have a 7-game lead on the Cubs and are a half game behind the Dodgers. Briefly after Monday's win, the Brewers had the best record in baseball. Then they lost and the Dodgers won. So they are a half game behind LA for the best record in baseball. Now, today is going to be a fun day. We have the Rockies in town for the final series of this 9-game homestand, where they're currently 5-1. And the Rockies are a last-place team. So this feels like you'd love to get a sweep. You can never predict a sweep. You'd love to just get the series win. So today is a rare 3:10 first pitch on a Friday afternoon, and they did this last year around the same time when they did the Alumni Home Run Derby, which turned into one of the more fun days of the summer. And I remember we talked about it on the podcast last year, and I remember kind of thinking, they're going to do this at American Family Field. Some of these guys have not swung a bat at the major league level, and I realized there's muscle memory there, and none of the guys they had last year were super old. But to hit a major league home run, even though it's batting practice, are any of these guys going to be able to hit home runs? And it turned into such an entertaining afternoon where Keon Broxton ultimately won it. But we got to see Prince get a couple of mammoth tank jobs. Corey Hart looked really good. Brawny hit a few out. So that ended up being a lot of fun. I did wonder when that wrapped up last year, are they just going to keep doing that? Will they just keep doing the home run derby, or will they freshen things up? And they're going in a different direction this year. So they are doing an alumni game. They've got 30 guys that are in town for this alumni game. So the 3:10 first pitch, it's Shane Drowan on the hill this afternoon. Then I'm guessing they'll take about a 25 or 30-minute break at the end of the game when they set this thing up. And then the alumni game will be on. It's a 3-inning game. I'm not entirely sure the format. Are the pitchers going to actually pitch? Or they're going to be an all-time pitchers kind of lobbing in batting practice? I don't know. But it'll be fun to watch. So they got coming back Jesus Aguilar. Nobody messes with the Jesus. Jesus Aguilar will be there. Chase Anderson, Brawny will be out there. They've got some random names. Brad Boxberger, Jeff Bianchi, Double D, Doug Davis, the human rain delay. Doug Davis never would have survived in the pitch clock era. Never. If you are a Brewer fan that remembers Doug Davis, he was the human rain delay. You should almost pull up. I don't know if there's a full Doug Davis game, like an Emerald episode. I don't know if there's a full Doug Davis pitched game that is on YouTube or an MLB vault somewhere. Even in the pre-pitch clock era, Doug Davis was agonizingly slow. Check the runner. All right, lick his hand. Step off the mound. Step off the mound. Step back in. Throw a pitch. Check the runner. I mean, his games lasted 4 hours. He never would have survived in the pitch clock era. They're going to have Timmy Dillard out there, Giovanni Gallardo, Bill Hall, who took part in the home run derby, Corey Hart, Jeremy Jeffress, my boy Jeff Jenkins, who looks like Brett Favre. He'll be a part of it. He's got to be almost 50 years old. Eric Kratz, everybody's favorite backup catcher in 2018. Corey Knebel, former Brewer closer all-star Dan Kolb, George Kataris, who famously hit a cycle. What else? Lucroy, Niger, Moustakis. We've got Manny Pineapple, Manny Pina, Big Sexy, Richie Sexton, Travis Shaw, the mayor of Ding Dong City is going to be out there, Ben Sheets, Randy Wolf, Eric Thames, Carlos Villanueva, Brooks Kieschnick. They've got Brooks bleeping Kieschnick for this game. That's a name, like I said on the morning show today, that's either a name you know or you don't. Brooks Kieschnick was the original Shohei Ohtani. If you know, you know. He was one of the first players that I can remember. He was a relief pitcher. He looked like he was a beer league softball cleanup hitter. Just a big old dude, big gut on him, and the long hair. I think maybe a mustache. He kind of looked like Clue Haywood from Major League, Pete Vukovich. He had that look to him, but he was a pitcher hitter. He was a bullpen pitcher and a backup, like, bench bat. I don't think he ever... Were they in the AL when he... Well, maybe he DH'd maybe a few times. But I remember we thought we had this really interesting commodity when he signed on. Oh, my God, we've got a guy who can pitch and hit. And I remember there were some games where if it was a close game and they wanted some power, they would actually get the bullpen cart. They would drive him in from the bullpen because he was out there. They would send the golf cart out there. They would drive him in. He'd take a couple of warm-up hacks, and then he'd go up to the plate and strike out on 3 pitches. The thing with Brooks Kieschnick was he was not really good at hitting or pitching. He wasn't, but he could do both. But he wasn't really good at either. But he was a fascinating watch for a couple of years, so it'll be fun to see him out there. I just think the Brewers do this better than anybody. And it's kind of, steering into the small market mentality where a lot of these stars, they're near and dear to our hearts, and they get to come back and be in the limelight for a little bit. All of these guys have been doing a ton of media all week, and you can just tell how fun it is for them to be in that spotlight. I mean, you got to miss that, right? I'm sure for some, after a 10-year playing career or 15-year playing career, it's nice to step away, but you kind of get addicted to that a little bit, I would think, the getting revered by fans and people asking you for autographs, and that fades over the years. So you could kind of tell some of these guys were really enjoying the media tours they were doing and all the different radio and TV spots. So that'll be a lot of fun. I guess we'll see how it works in action as opposed to in theory. But I am excited for it, and I think if you're going to the game, you're going to have a ball this afternoon. So a 3:10 first pitch, hopefully you get a win, and then the alumni game is coming up. I would guess the alumni game will be around 6 o'clock. Now, the other little bit of Brewers news, last night was the debut of the Uke documentary.
On into the windup in his first offering. Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed.
So the Uke doc has been teased now for months, and it had its premiere in Milwaukee on Thursday on the off day. And you saw all the different Brewer media members were out there and having a great time. They all had their Uke suit coats on. That was great, like they did on opening day a year ago, where they had the tip of the cap to the Uke style. And they all said it was great. 94 minutes. I'm pretty sure it's at almost every Marcus cinema for at least a week or two. I mean, I don't know how long it's going to be there. Maybe a month on the high side. I'm not well versed in movies anymore and how long they're in the theater. But the last movie my wife and I saw, no kidding, it was the 1982 Just a Bit Outside documentary. Like, that was the last time we went to the theater 3 years ago, 2 years ago.
In his first offering. Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed.
I think before that, we maybe went to an Avengers, and I probably fell asleep. You can't. You know what I need? A lot of things. Don't fill in the blank there. You know what I need? If I were to go back to the theater more often, I probably wouldn't anyway. I need the uncomfortable seats back. Remember the ones that would squeak and there'd kind of be a spring in your ass and it was sort of uncomfortable? That would keep me awake. Ever since they installed those Dream Loungers, and it's a super comfortable, roomy seat, and you can recline. If you let me recline, and now I can have beer there too, it's entrapment. They sit me down in a comfortable recliner, and I can have a beer, and then you want me to watch a 3-hour movie? I don't know. I've fallen asleep. I think every movie we've seen outside of the Brewer documentaries, I'm pretty sure I've fallen asleep at every movie we had been prior for at least a couple of years. I mean, I just doze off. So I think the Avengers maybe The Incredibles. Might have been The Incredibles 2. Might have seen that. What was the one? There was the dog superhero movie where I forget who voiced. Was Louis C.K. a voice on that? We saw that. Secret Life of Pets, maybe? Something like that. So anyway, that is in theaters now. And again, I don't know how long it'll be there, but that is something to check out if you want to check that out. The Uke documentary premiered last night. It sounds like it's going to be crying, right? I'm going to be crying by the end of it. I think that's one of my hesitations is I've got to go in with the right mindset because you're going to laugh, but then you are inevitably going to cry, I would think, by the end of the whole thing. But probably a lot of fun. 94 minutes, you can't go wrong there. One other quick Brewer thing that I know we teased. Adam McCalvy. Now, the deadline is on Monday, August 3rd. And there's been a lot of conversation like there has been the last, decade as we approach the deadline because the Brewers have been good. They've been in a playoff spot pretty much every year since 2017 at this point. And there's always the conversation of, is there going to be a year where they make a move like CeCe? We talked about that a lot. Are they going to make that kind of all-in move where you give up 3 or 4 prospects and you bring in a hammer guy? I mean, you bring in a guy that you think is going to put you over the top. And more often than not, what has happened the last few deadlines, they pick up kind of a middle-of-the-road reliever and a backup bat and kind of roll the dice with what they have. And then when they get eliminated in the wild card round or in last year's case in the NLCS, you get a lot of people that say, God, could they just have gone all in? Could you just go? Because you have the number 1 prospect system in baseball. And I understand. I know we all joke about the old David Stearns quote from many years ago, the bites at the apple. That's something that a lot of Brewers fans have taken on sarcastically when they get eliminated from the playoffs. Oh, we got another bite at the apple. Hey, can we hang a pennant for another bite at the apple? That was fun. Fun to lose in October and have our hearts ripped out again. Oh, put a pennant up there for the bite of the apple. But the idea behind the bite of the apple philosophy for a small market team with no salary cap right now, and I don't think that's going to change, the idea is you have to be so good at scouting and drafting and acquiring young talent and building up your farm system, and then you get control of those guys for 7 years, and they filter in and filter out, and then, like we've talked about, when those guys get to the last year of their deal, do you trade them? Do you get more prospects, reload the system? Do you let it ride? Whatever. That is how a small market team with no salary cap has to operate if you want to have a chance every year. The Brewers' idea is if we keep on keeping our own prospects, our top prospects, when they get called up, we'll have another 4 or 5 year window where we make the playoffs every year. And the idea is at some point, if we just keep getting to October, at some point it will all come together and we'll find a way to win a title. And the flip side of that coin is if you didn't do it that way and you're not there every year, you can't win the playoff, you can't win a pennant, you can't win a World Series unless you're in the playoffs. So the Brewers are just putting themselves in a spot where they feel like every year we can be in the playoffs and then just a numbers game. At some juncture, we'll be able to break through. Hasn't worked out so far, but it has led to a lot of fun summers like we've had in the last 10 years. And it has led to a lot of division championships and being able to chirp Cubs fans, and there's been a lot of fun that's been involved with it until you get to October and have your heart ripped out. So the conversation always is, especially right now when you've got a team that is a half game off the pace of the best record in baseball and the two-time reigning defending World Series champions, is this the year you finally spend some of these prospects? The Brewers have 8 or 9 top 100 prospects. They have the prospect wallet, their wallet. They can't spend money on free agents. They can't spend hundreds of millions of dollars on top line free agents, but they have the prospect capital to get anyone they want. I mean, there's anybody that's available, anybody that's going to be available at the trade deadline. The Brewers have the prospect load to out-offer any other team in baseball. They have not done that in the last few years or in the last 10 years, but could this be the year, with how good they've been, that they might think about that? They have the number one prospect in baseball in Jesus Madej. I don't think he'll be involved in any kind of transaction. I don't think you trade the number one prospect in baseball, even if you can get a frontline pitcher back or whatever. I don't think they're dealing him. But beyond him, could you combo up 2 or 3 of these top 100 prospects and go and get Tarek Skubal, go and get Mason Miller, go and get a power-hitting third baseman? And Adam McCalvy, who is employed by the Brewers, and he writes for the Brewer website, he had an article this week talking about how the Brewers have already been making calls about Tarek Skubal and about Mason Miller. Now, I feel like because it's coming from the guy who works for the team, who works for the Brewers website, it feels to me like it's a little bit of a signal to Brewers fans saying, maybe this year is the year. Maybe if we find a deal where we're not having to overwhelm somebody to get a big name coming back, a big name rental coming back, maybe this is the year where that could come together and we could make that CC kind of move. I just thought it was interesting that the guy that works for the team, you know what I mean? Of all the beat reporters, if they wanted to keep things quiet or they wanted to be hush-hush or they didn't want to get fans' hopes up about getting somebody like that, it's odd to me then that it would come from the guy who wears the Brewer polo, whose name is on a Brewer paycheck. The fact that he had the article kind of feels like it's a smoke signal from the franchise and from the front office to the fans that, yeah, we're making the calls. Not saying it's going to happen, but we're making the calls. Like his article said, they have made calls on Tarek Skubal. They have made calls on Mason Miller. Either one of those guys would be a tremendous get. I don't know what it would cost. I don't know how many prospects. I would think Skubal would cost you at least 2 top 100 prospects, maybe 1 top 10 or top 15 prospect, which they also have outside of Madej. Could you bring him in and combo him up at the top of the rotation with Mizorowski and Kyle Harrison when he comes back? And that's a formidable rotation. So I just thought it was interesting that the guy that works for the Brewers had that article out this week, a couple of weeks in advance of the trade deadline. So it does get my hopes up. You got my hopes up now. It does get my hopes up a little bit that maybe they are going to make a splashier move this year. But we'll talk more about that next week as we approach the deadline, and we have some mailbag stuff on that for next Friday. Now, let's talk quickly about some Bucks drama. Giannis, now I'm going to play you a part of this, I think. Let's get all the Emerald clips out of here. Giannis was on a Greek podcast, and they were talking to him, and we have talked about how I feel like, given the interview he had with Paschke when he left, and the goodbye video, and how already it feels like he has broached the idea or thrown the topic out there that, yeah, maybe I could come back to Milwaukee at the end of my career. And I'll play you a little bit. He does mix in some English and Greek here. Let me fast forward this a second, but here is...
Είμαι στο comfort zone μου. Ήμουνα στο comfort zone μου. Ήθελα κάτι...
Said he feels like he wanted something different.
Και είμαι χαρούμενος που είμαι στο Miami.
Wants to be happy in Miami. Doesn't feel comfortable there.
Δεν νιώθω άνετα. Δηλαδή δεν την ξέρω την ομάδα. Αλλά θα πάω εκεί πέρα και θα κάνω ό,τι
κάνω. So I'll go there and do my best. That's what I've been doing my whole career.
Και μακάρι να βγει σε καλό.
And hopefully it'll turn out well.
Πόλη, the city of Milwaukee, I love the city of Milwaukee. Θα την αγαπάω μέχρι να πεθάνω.
Loves the city.
I bleed purple and green. It's very simple. They made me who I am today. Έχουν αγαπήσει την οικογένειά μου.
They love my family.
Όταν περπατάω στον δρόμο με αφήνουν και κάνω...
I walk down the street, they let me alone.
Έχω φυσιολογική ζωή. Πάω στο σούπερ μάρκετ και δεν με ενοχλεί άνθρωπος. Με βλέπουν στον δρόμο και με χαιρετούν.
So yeah, he goes on about how much he loves Milwaukee. Like he said, bleed purple and green. And he does talk toward the end here. Hold on.
Πάρα πολύ όμορφα.
In
and that
English,
will always
please.
be in my heart. It will never. It doesn't matter if I play in Mars. That will always be in my heart. And μακάρι όταν... εντάξει, δεν ξέρω, μακάρι σε...
Said when the Miami chapter closes...
που δεν ξέρω πότε θα τελειώσει και αν... που σίγουρα θα τελειώσει, θα αποσυρθώ μια μέρα. Πόσα χρόνια, δεν ξέρω πόσα χρόνια θα είμαι εκεί.
Don't know how many years I'll be there, but I wish to return to Milwaukee if they'll have me. So that's how he wraps it up. So it is interesting to me that we've talked about that it kind of feels like at some point, you know, he's going to be 32 in December, and the Bucks are kind of embarking on this rebuild. I saw one of the first over-unders, by the way. Maybe this is just rose-colored glasses, and maybe maybe my brain hasn't fully processed yet that this is going to be probably a bad year. Because when I look at this roster, I don't know, man. Tyler Hero, I know, he's kind of an odd dude. I don't know if anybody's super excited, but he was an all-star 2 years ago. He's a guy that can score you 25 points a game. We feel like Ryan Rollins is an ascending point guard. We talked about how Braden Burry's the 10th overall pick, looks like a legit rotation player already and could be a contender for Rookie of the Year. You've got Miles Turner, for as bad as he was last year. Maybe he will be better under Taylor Jenkins and a team with a scheme and a strategy and a way to use him that I don't think Doc had last year. Remember, Miles Turner, for as big of a letdown as that was last year, highly productive player in Indiana for many, many years. Maybe under a coach that's going to utilize him, he'll be better. And the same could be said for Kuzma and Kevin Porter Jr. When I look at that roster, I kind of thought, and I think we've said this, the Bucks finished 32-50 last year. I feel like that they're a better team than that right now. I'm not saying... I think if everything went right and they don't trade anybody, and look, they could make a few trades before the year begins. They could make a bunch of trades at the deadline. I don't know how they're going to approach that. If this team, as presently constituted right now, with the roster they have right now, and let's say they don't do anything to it. They don't trade anybody before the year. They trade nobody at the deadline. They just keep this roster and everybody's healthy. Let's just live in that imaginary world. I think the ceiling for this roster right now would be a play-in tournament team where you finish 8, 9, 10, 7, 8, 9, 10, and you're battling for one of those last two playoff spots. That's what I thought, but now the over-unders are starting to come out, and they're really low. Like the public sentiment or the Vegas sentiment on how good this Bucks team is going to be is not good. The first over-under that came out was 24.5. I saw that and thought, maybe I'm just way off. I mean, there's a possibility. I'll give you another LaFleur hand up. Maybe it's like when I gave Oscar the chocolate ice cream cone. Maybe I'm way off. Maybe I'm not fully understanding that we're no longer a title contender. We're no longer a playoff contender. You know, you get in that mindset for 10, 11, 12 years. It's kind of hard to extract yourself from it. So maybe I'm still looking at it like, oh, we can still compete. And the obvious conclusion from the outside is that, no, this is not going to be a good team. I saw 24.5. I thought 30. I thought 30-ish would be the over-under. 24.5. Hammer the over. But he's going to be there for 4 or 5 years. We assume he is going to sign the contract extension there when he's eligible in January or February. He can't sign it right now. And that was a big part of what we talked about on why he might stay, because the Bucks are the only one that can offer him that deal in October. He's got to wait till spring in Miami. I assume he is going to sign a 4-year deal there, so he's going to be there for 5 total years-ish. And maybe around that time, 3 or 4 years down the road, maybe Braden Burries is an all-star. Ryan Rollins is a really good player averaging 20 a game. I mean, maybe you're at a point in Milwaukee then where you are a 40-win team again and you're a playoff team again. And then all of a sudden, 37-year-old Giannis comes home. It seems like it's a high likelihood that at some point we are going to see Giannis in the Bucks 34 again. Because I do feel like we saw some sadness in his eyes at the press conference. And he has already gone out of his way 3 separate times. He's only been gone for 2 weeks. He has gone out of his way 3 separate times to talk about how he would like to get back if that is a possibility at the end of his career. Now, the other bit of Giannis drama, I did see, we had somebody text the station. Giannis stopped at some basketball camp in Miami, and they were interviewing him, and he was talking about his experience in Miami. And he randomly said that he was enjoying his time and he had his first Oreo last night. And if you have followed Giannis over the years in Milwaukee, and we've all followed the social media, and a part of what we love and has been fun about Giannis is you got this guy who had never been to America, 18-year-old string bean, and he got to experience America, and a part of that was like all those soccer fans that came over the World Cup this year. A part of that was enjoying watching Giannis enjoy American food. One of the first videos he had that went viral was when he had his first smoothie and how much he loved that. And there have been several videos about his love for Oreos when he was in Milwaukee. There was an interview he did where he said that he had a can at his house full of Oreos. And I guess one of the Bucks team personnel early in Giannis's career was kind of in charge of like valeting him around, driving him here and there and getting him set to go, cleaning his apartment, doing stuff like that, like an intern. And I guess at some point this guy ended up eating an Oreo or two at Giannis's house, and Giannis noticed it. So there have been all of these articles about Giannis loving Oreos during his time in Milwaukee. And he said to the Miami media that I just had my first Oreo last night. It was fantastic. And I don't think he was doing some kind of roundabout joke. He has had a couple of those since he's been to Miami. Now, here's what I think is happening. I think there's a little bit of a radio thing happening with Giannis. Because I have been working at B93 now in Sheboygan for almost 20 years. So I have exhausted every story. I've used every story that I could possibly think of. I've made up a few stories. I feel like I've got to be Jay Peterman from Seinfeld when he buys Kramer's stories. I was sitting in those pants. I was all muddy. I feel like at some point I need to start buying other people's stories and then acting like they're my stories. So if I were to get fired at B93 and get hired in Butte, Montana tomorrow to do a morning show out there, the beauty of that for me would be that audience has never heard any of my stories, and I can basically start over because I'm not boring them with the same stories over and over again. I think Giannis is kind of using that approach in Miami, like, oh, these people have never heard my stories. This is all fresh content here. And what Giannis forgets is that he lives in a very national world where everybody's been following his moves. No one from Butte, Montana cares about what I'm talking about in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, unless I got a job out there. Nobody cares. Nobody's heard it. If I were a national radio star and I had a national radio program telling my stories, then you can't retell them and act like they're new stories. So I think Giannis is kind of doing a little bit of that early in his career. Oh, this is my first time doing this. This is my first time doing that. I saw some Bucks fans getting fired up about that. I'm not going to get fired up about that. I just thought it was interesting. And then the other little bit of Bucks drama was Damian Lillard on Twitter over the end of this week. So we all know the Dame-Giannis combo just didn't quite work out the way that anybody wanted it to. Has there been stuff, or was there stuff going on behind the scenes there? Because my understanding when they traded for Dame in September of 2023 was that was a guy Giannis wanted. Like, he told the front office, if he's available, get him. Our games match up perfectly. We'll work together. We're going to make this thing work. So when they brought in Dame, my assumption was that those guys were working hard behind the scenes to make that work, to make that combo work, to make the team work. And the tweet Dame had this week kind of made it feel like that wasn't the case and kind of made it feel like that was on Giannis. So somebody tweeted, Giannis was in Greece with Miami Heat, a young Miami Heat guard named Davion Mitchell. And there was a video up of Davion and Giannis working out together in Greece. And one of the Heat podcasters or Heat bloggers just tweeted out, or somebody tweeted out, Davion's already doing what Dame did not want to do in Milwaukee, hinting or sort of joking that You've already got Giannis and Davion Mitchell working out together, and that's something Dame didn't want to do for 2 or 3 years. So Dame fired back, and he essentially said, you guys don't want Dame to tell the story. You're lucky that I'm not running my mouth the way some other guys are. And then he kind of ended the tweet there. And then the guy did tweet back at Dame and said, look, I was just joking. And he said, go mess around with somebody else. So I don't think Dame was joking. So the gist of that tweet to me makes it feel like for the 2-year run of Dame and Giannis in Milwaukee, they talked a lot about, I'm going to go to Greece. Or I think Giannis at one point said, I'm going to fly out to Portland and spend a week with Dame. And I guess that just never happened. Over the 2 years, that never happened where they spent an offseason working out together. And I guess they only really had one offseason because Dame came to Milwaukee in September. So the next year was the only time they had a full offseason. And Giannis was playing for Greece. So I don't know. But it just doesn't sound like that ever happened. All those well-laid plans never happened for those two to get on the same page, work out together, spend some time together, have their family spend time together. I'm not saying they didn't get along, but it just doesn't seem like there was the cohesiveness there. And that tweet that Dame sent out there got a lot of eye emojis, from different Bucks podcasters, bloggers, Bucks fans out there that I kind of follow and interact with on Twitter. It just kind of felt like he was saying, you don't want me to tell the story behind the scenes of how the relationship went with Giannis, because that might sully Giannis's his reputation as this god among Bucks fans. He might be taken down a notch. Now, I have heard some rumors in my time working in media. I have heard some rumors that at the end of the Giannis run in Milwaukee, that carefully cultivated image of the hard worker and all I want to do is win championships and all I want to do is bust my ass 110% and I'll sacrifice anything and I'm loyal and all. It kind of felt like in the last 2 or 3 years that was the public image still, but maybe that wasn't quite what it was behind the scenes anymore. So I guess we'll see how it goes for him in Miami. I just thought that Dame tweet was really interesting where somebody tried to take kind of a fun shot at him and he said, you don't want Dame to tell the story of what's going on behind the scenes. Actually, I kind of do. I kind of want to hear it, Dame. I kind of do. But that was news for the Bucks over the week as well. So 2 other quick ones before we get out. I just will echo again what we said in the teaser. You may have seen Aaron Charles Rodgers. I'm so in on the Steelers this year. I know we talked about this once before where I kind of feel like I have a second favorite team, and I've never had that in my life, and nor have I wanted that, really. I really haven't. Like we said when we talked about it a few weeks ago, I've always been kind of put off, for the most part, about people in my life that root for the Packers and then have an AFC team or have a second NFC team, or my wife is from, I guess that one makes sense a little bit. My wife's from San Francisco, so we kind of root for the Niners too. I've never been that way, but I've always loved Rodgers, even though the drama at the end of it, I get all that. Everybody was ready to move on. But I pulled for him when he was in New York. I pulled for him in Pittsburgh, especially that last game last year in the regular season that won them the division title. And now that McCarthy's back there, and it's a McCarthy-Rodgers reunion, I'm all in. I'm getting Sunday ticket. I'm getting all the games. I want to watch as much Aaron Rodgers, Mike McCarthy Steeler coverage as I can this year. So I think legitimately this year, I do think I have a second favorite team. You may have seen on Instagram and several videos on TMZ that Aaron Rodgers has reunited with his family. And there are pictures of him and his mom hugging and his dad standing next to him. And he's got the 3 brothers that have kids, and he got to be Uncle Aaron. So there's been a lot of pictures on social media. Still haven't seen his wife. Still not sure what's going on there, but I guess whatever. But I thought that was really neat. That had been a long schism between those two. Now, I've actually had some interactions with his parents. They used to come to the Miesfeld's Lakeshore Weekend for the kids and help out down there, and they were great to work with. So I don't know what happened. It's not our right to know what happened there. It'd be kind of fun, like the Dame Lillard, like the Dame Giannis thing, but I don't know. I don't know what led to him being estranged or the division between his immediate family and Rodgers where he didn't interact with them for many, many years. But I am somebody, like a lot of us, I'm not unique in this, that says life is too short. Life is gone before you even have a chance to wrap your mind around what happened. So if you have a parent, if your parents are alive, if your brothers and sisters are alive and they've got kids and you've got nieces and nephews, be involved in their life. Fix whatever bridge is destroyed. Now, I understand some things are not fixable. I get that. But if this is something that's fixable or a little thing that turned into a big thing, I'm just happy to see, as he's my age, what is he, 41, 42 years old? I'm just happy to see His family is alive and well. He is alive and well, and they have kind of come back together. I thought that was kind of a heartwarming thing on social media over the course of the week. That he's back with Mike McCarthy. He's back with his family. I just think it's a fun full circle thing. I wish them nothing but the best. I want to see the best Aaron Rodgers this year. And then one last thing before we get out, some Badger football, basketball, radio affiliate news. Some of you have maybe followed this. I don't know how closely. It's kind of a radio thing, but they are back on WTMJ in Milwaukee. That was one of my first jobs. Overnight news at WTMJ. Me and Dan O'Donnell. Some of you know, Dan O'Donnell has a big career as a conservative talk show on WISN now. I think it's a daily show. Or did he take over? He might have taken over Belling's spot, which was a long time, 30, 40-year afternoon show for Mark Belling. I think O'Donnell's got that spot. It was me. It was a rotation of me, Dan O'Donnell, and Vicky Hollowell. I don't know if she still works in radio, but that was one of my first jobs out of college, overnight news at WTMJ. I did that for about 6 months. The biggest stick in the state, but the Badgers are back on TMJ. I just want to say that's where they should be. All sports. Now, I get we've got our local affiliates, WHBL. That's right next to me, the studio right next to me. They are the local Sheboygan Badger affiliate, so you should always listen to Badger basketball and Badger football and Packer football. You should always listen to that on WHBL. Listen local. However, I think the Packers, the Brewers, the Badgers, the Bucks, all of the major sports, college and pro, should be on TMJ because their radio signal travels the entire state. One of the most annoying things about a road trip is trying to figure out, okay, we lost the range there. Now, who's the affiliate in Poynette? Who's the affiliate in Madison? Who's the affiliate in La Crosse? If you're trying to listen to a Brewer game or a Badger game or a Packer game, try to skip around and find all the different people that have it. 620 covers the whole state. I listen to 620. I listen to Bucks games in Stevens Point on 620. So I just feel like every sport should be on that station just because of the coverage they have in the state. You can get that thing damn near anywhere. So that was a little radio news this week that TMJ is, again, the home radio broadcast for Badger football and Badger basketball. I like that because it was on The Game, 97.3 in Milwaukee. They bought the rights to the Packers. They bought the rights to the Badgers. Then they kind of went out of business. So it was an interesting conversation behind the scenes here of who is going to take over as the flagship stations for those programs. And a lot of that is landing back on TMJ, which is where it was when I grew up as a kid. I mean, you just knew all the sports games were on 620. And now they're basically all back there. So that was interesting Badger football broadcast news and basketball broadcast news this week. That'll do it for us here on your Friday morning. We'll get back after it on Monday. We'll have one episode, and then, I think Friday will be the mailbag episode. So, again, any mailbag type stuff, strangebrewpod@aol.com. Have a happy, safe weekend. We'll chat with you Monday.